ଜ୍ଞାନ ଭାଇ ମ୍ୟୁଟ୍ ହେଇଯାଇଛି।
ହଉ ହଉ ହଉ। ଝିଅ ହଷ୍ଟେଲ ମାନେ କଣ ଝିଅ ଝିଅ?
ଜ୍ଞାନ ଭାଇ ମ୍ୟୁଟ୍ ହେଇଯାଇଛି।
ହୁଁ ହଉ 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 କିଛି ଅସୁବିଧା ନାହିଁ ଝିଅ ତ ଆଉ।
ହ୍ୟାଲୋ।
ଏଇଗୁଡ଼ା କଥା
ମ୍ୟୁଟ୍
ହଁ
ହେଇଯାଇଛି।
ହଁ ଖୋଲିଗଲା।
ହଁ ଖୋଲିଲା। ଆରମ୍ଭ କରନ୍ତୁ
ହୁଁ
ରେକର୍ଡିଂ କରୁଛୁ ଆଉ।
କିଛି ଅସୁବିଧା ନାହିଁ ସେଇ ବିଷୟରେ
ହ୍ୟାଲୋ।
ଆଉ ବଡ ବଡ କଥା କଣ କହିଥାନ୍ତୁ ଭଲ।
We will discuss about Block 1, Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3, Introduction to Economics and Economy, Demand and Supply Analysis, Demand and Supply in Practice. First thing we have to know about the economy. Economy or economic system. The term economy, or we can say that economic system, it is a very comprehensive term. It covers the entire set of the institutions and arrangements. We can say that rules and regulations which facilitate their interaction.
ହଁ ଆଉ ଟିକେ
For
ଭାଇ ଆଉ ଟିକେ ମୁହଁ କ୍ଲିୟର ହବ ଆଉ ଟିକେ ଆଉ
for
ଟିକେ
result
ହଁ 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 ସେତିକି ହଁ 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 ସେତିକି 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 ହବ।
for resolving the basic and permanent problem of an imbalance between means and wants. We know that the human wants are unlimited. The basic, or we can say that the common theme coming running through all these definition is that the scarcity is a fact of life. We have so many problems, but an efficient use of these scarce resources is to be found. We know that the Adam Smith, the father of economics, Lionel Robbins, in his book defines economics is a science which deals with human behavior as a relationship with ends, scarce means which have alternative uses. From this definition, we can know that the three important things, that is ends, scarce resources, and unlimited uses, but all alternative uses. First thing, the scarcity lies at the root cause of all economic activities. The concept of scarcity finds an expression in two basic facts of common life. First, we know that the unlimited wants, ends. We know that the wants are unlimited. Wants are multiple in character. We cannot satisfy all our wants because resources are limited in relation to our demand. So the wants can be compared with the waves of the sea. So we cannot satisfy all our wants. Wants are multiple, wants are numerous, wants are limitless. So we cannot satisfy all our wants. Every person has some wants. We know that. Different persons have different, generally different wants. And second important aspect is the scarce resources, but scarce means the satisfaction of wants requires resources or means to satisfy wants, or you can say that availability of resources is limited in relation to our requirements or relation to our demand. Availability of resources is limited in relation to our requirements. Third important aspect is the scarce means have alternative uses. Third important aspect, the scarce means have alternative uses. The resources therefore need to be allocated among different uses in a very systematic and coordinated manner. Every individual and economy has to devise a mechanism for this. And we know that the term economic or economic system is a comprehensive term. The human society has evolved several set of such institutional arrangements. Each is termed as economic system. They have their own distinguishing feature and they try to adopt their own means and methodologies for solving these basic economic problems. And so many problems, but the central problem central problems of an economy, that is what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce, and allocation of resources. How to produce, what to produce. First important aspect of the central problems of an economy, we can say that the economy does not have enough resources to produce everything required by it. So it must be selective and decide what to produce, what goods are to be produced, and what not to produce. When some goods are not produced, some wants of the society remain unsatisfied. So decision, we have to take a decision regarding wants to be satisfied, and the goods and services to be produced are interrelated, are taken in a very coordinated manner. We can say that this is called allocation of productive resources. What to produce, what goods are to be produced in. That is the most. Second important, how to produce. How to produce. This is a problem which covers details of allocation of productive resources in the production of various goods and services. We can say that suppose economy decides to produce X, it is also to work out the exactly how much labor and capital and land. We know that there are four factors of production: land, labor, capital, and organization. It is also to work out exactly how much of labor, capital, land would go into its production in the production process. We know that the production means the creation of utility. But it implies transformation of inputs into output, thereby increasing want satisfying capacity of the inputs. The things which are so transformed are called inputs, while output is nothing but the transformed form of inputs. That is, we can say that goods and services. This involves some human effort, both physical and intellectual. So transformation may be physical or different appearances, which enhances one's satisfying capacity. capacity. It has to work out exactly how much labor, capital, and land. And in this case, they call the technique of production is very important. We may think of goods which are produced by using more labor than capital. In such case, labor intensive technique of production. There are two types of technique: labor intensive technique and capital intensive technique. On the one hand, labor intensive technique of production are said to be in use. On the other hand, if more capital goods into production of an item, then we say that it is being produced by the capital intensive technique. There are two: one is labor intensive, another is capital intensive. Third important point is for whom to produce. First, what to produce; second, how to produce; third, for whom to produce. Society comprises large number of individuals and households. All the output of consumption goods and services, it is meant for their use, and all goods and services produced are to be distributed amongst individuals and households. The share of each individual and household has to be determined, and also the quantities of specific goods and services. So we have to propose different principles whereby this distribution may be carried out. How to carry out? The income shares of individual member society are determined in the following manner. And fourth important point is the problem of growth. So every economy seeks to increase the stock of capital. We have to increase the stock of capital to increase this production capacity. We have to increase the productive capacity of our country, thereby to generate more income. The generated income in an economy has two alternative uses: consumption expenditure and saving. Y is equal to C plus S. C consumption expense, S stands for saving. The saving is also source of finance for investment in an economy. So we can say that Y is equal to C plus S. So investment adds to the stock, adds capital stock of economy, existing stock of economy. So addition to the existing stock of the economy. Then the choice between public and private, public and private goods. Public and private, there are certain goods, we can say that the term goods here includes services also, where availability can be restricted to selected individuals. A product may be priced in market, only those who pay its price. It may be allowed to have it. So, in case of private goods, the principle of exclusion is applicable. Principle of exclusion is applicable. Any goods which can be priced and whose use can be restricted to selected persons is termed as the private goods. We can say that. Public goods, it is not possible to restrict the availability of a product to selected individuals. They are termed as public goods, are owned and supplied by the government. Such goods cannot be so priced as to deprive some person from using it. So you can say that defense service is a typical example of public service. When a country is protected against foreign aggression, every citizen is protected. So you can get public goods. And another is the problem of merit goods production. First, what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce, problem of growth, choice between public and private goods, problem of merit goods. Those goods whose consumption is considered highly desirable for the members of society, we can say that termed, is, termed as merit goods. The economy has to choose between alternative combination of various goods and services. That is the problem of choice can be illustrated by a simple graph that is known as the production possibility curve, or we can say that product transformation curve or frontier curve. We can say that transformation curve. The country has to choose between alternative combination of only two goods, X or Y. Productive resources of the country as taken as given, so is the state of technology. No changes are made in them. So the productive resources of the economy are fully employed. Production possibility cost. And another is characteristics of the production possibility curve. We can say that downward sloping from left to right. It implies that in order to produce more units of one good, some units of the other good must be sacrificed. We have to sacrifice other good because of limited resources. Then second part is important characteristics of the PPC by production possibility curve, concave to the origin. Concave to the origin. A concave downward sloping curve has an increasing slope. The slope is same as marginal rate of technical substitution. Convexity implies increasing. That is the concave to the origin. Thus, another part is we can say that allocation of resources or solution of central problems, resource allocation in a mixed economy. With that, the combination of public sector and private sector, we can say that mixed economy. Some government acquires the necessary productive resources for these activities and employ them in conformity with these priorities. Production pattern of the public sector, prices of the items produced by the public sector, and other measures are used to regulate the allocation of resources in the private sector. How to allocate the resources efficiently, that is the most important. Allocation of allocation of resources. Then the two important term, the microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics means small, micro, and macroeconomics are used in connection with level of aggregation, extent to which economy units and variables are covered in economic analysis. Economic analysis, micro and that the micro and macro are derived from Greek words, micros and macros, micros and macros, which means small, macros means large, respectively. Small and large. Micro deals with behavior of individual elements in an economy and the determination of price of single product. But macroeconomics covers aggregates, or we can say that collection of economic units which may extend to entire economy, that covers great aggregates and averages of economic system rather than individual items. But micro deals with behavior of individual elements in an economy. Then the stock and flow.
Sir, can I get example of micro or macroeconomics?
Micro means small, small unit,
Uh,
small unit.
uh,
Macro means large, small.
some
Micro.
example can.
Suppose particular individual income, small. If we combine all the average income of the 10 people or 20 people or 50 people or 100 people, that we can say that macro. One element, individual elements in an economy, distribution or determination of price of the single product, of the behavior of the single community. Perfect market, monopoly, and the
Okay.
aggregate, inflation, national income, that covers wider aspects. Macroeconomics covers wider aspect, large aggregates, collection of economic units which may extend to the entire economy. Considers aggregates and averages of economic system, total economic system rather than individual items. We can say that individual farm, that is the micro concept, or an industry lies within the scope of microeconomics, the entire sector within the scope of the macroeconomics, larger concept, broader concept. And another is uh, demand. You need to demand and supply analysis. Demand and supply analysis. Structure, law of demand, concept of supply, law of demand. First, the nature of demand. What is the meaning of demand? Demand is, we can say that in common language, we can the desire for a commodity. But in economics, the demand is the desire for a commodity backed by willingness and ability to pay. We know that the satisfaction of human wants is a basic and goal of all production activities in an economy. We know that human wants are unlimited and recurring in nature, but means available to satisfy them are limited resources. But as a rational consumer has to make an optimal use available resources, how to use the efficiently, how to use the resources efficiently. So we can say that demand and supply analysis provides a framework within which these decisions have to be made. So let us understand the meaning of like desire, want, and demand. Desire is just a wish on the part of the consumer, just wish to the part of the consumer to possess a commodity. If the desire to possess a commodity backed by purchasing power and consumer is willing to buy that commodity, it becomes want. So wish of the consumer to get a definite quantity of the good at a given price in the market. So we can say that demand includes the desire for a commodity, price of the commodity, willingness to spend, ability to pay, and the time period. So we can say that demand. The quantity demanded is the quantity desired to be purchased. To be purchased. The quantity actually bought is referred to actual purchase. So quantity demanded is always considered as flow measured over a period of time. Like the quantity demanded of oranges is 10, it must be per day or per week. So the quantity demanded will have an economy meaning only at a given price, related to price. First thing is desire for a commodity. Second is the willingness, price, ability, and time period. So we can say that demand is the desire for a commodity backed by willingness and ability to pay. Ability to pay. And demand includes five important things, that is the price, desire for a commodity, willingness to spend, ability to pay, and time period. Next, determinants. Determinants of demand by a consumer. What are the determinants? What the price of the commodity, the important, and price of the other related commodities, income of the consumers, taste of the consumers, income of the consumers, taste of the consumers. So we can say that demand function refers to the rule that shows how quantity demanded depends upon the above factors, that is price of commodity, price of other related commodities, income of the consumer, and taste of the consumers. You can say that demand function. So demand function refers to the quantity demanded depends upon the above factors, that is price of the commodity, price of the related commodities, income of the consumers, taste of the consumers. That is demand depends upon the four important things. We can say that demand function. Demand, we can demand relationship. Relationship of quantity demanded of a commodity to the various determinants. We can say that price of the commodity, size of the consumer income, prices of the other commodities, and demand bears inverse relationship between price of the complements and direct relation with the price of the substitutes. So you can law of demand. Other things remaining constant, with fall in price, quantity demand rises. With rise in price, quantity demand falls. This is the law of demand. That means inverse relationship between quantity commodity and its price. Inverse relationship. Given all other factors that influence the demand, we can say that this is law of demand. And the demand curve slopes downwards from left to right. It is law of demand. Other things remaining constant, with fall in price, quantity demanded rises. With rise in price, quantity demanded falls. This is the law of demand. And then the demand schedule. What is the demand schedule? Demand schedule. Demand schedule is a table or a chart showing the relationship price and quantity demanded. Relationship between price and quantity demanded. Suppose if the price of fish per kg is rupees 100, quantity demanded of fish in kg 15 kg. Suppose price of fish increases to 200 rupees and quantity demanded decreases to 12, from 15 to 12. You can say that with fall in price, quantity demanded rises. With rise in price, quantity demanded falls. And the demand curve graphically shows the relationship between quantity of a good and consumers are willing to buy. Consumers are willing to buy and price of the goods. We can say that demand curve slopes downward. Slope downward from left to right. And the demand schedule two types. One is individual demand schedule, another is market demand schedule. The individual demand schedule. Suppose demand particular person, suppose household A, you can say that individual demand schedule. Suppose price is rupees 3, suppose price is rupees 100, suppose 15 kg demand, and 200 12, 300 8. You can say that with fall in price, quantity demanded, with fall in price, quantity demanded rises. With rise in price, quantity demanded falls. But in case of market demand schedule, there are so many consumers. Suppose A's demand, B's demand, C's demand, D's demand, E's demand. If we add all the demand A's demand plus B's demand plus C's demand plus D's demand, we get market demand. You can say that market demand schedule. Another question is, why does the demand curve slopes downwards? One is substitution effect, income effect, price effect. So the demand curve slopes downwards from left to right. Then change in quantity demanded and change in demand. Suppose when demand changes, suppose demand curve slopes downwards left to right. And expansion and contraction in demand, the change in quantity demanded of commodity is called expansion. Change in quantity demanded, we can say that expansion. If a fall in price causes quantity demanded to rises, and if with rise in price of commodity, its quantity demanded falls. We call it contraction, expansion and contraction. Demand, the change in demand, and the change in demand may take two forms. Suppose increase in demand or decrease in demand. Increase in demand and decrease in demand. Increase in demand results right towards shift of the whole demand curve. Decrease demand results in leftward shift demand curve. In the rightward shift, that means whole demand curve. Increase in demand, that means rightward shift of the whole demand curve. Decrease demand results leftward shift of the demand curve. That is change in demand, change in quantity demand and change in demand. Then the supply, concept of supply. Supply refers to quantity of a commodity that producers are willing to sell at different prices per unit of time, just like demand. Supply of a commodity indicates the offer quantities producers are willing to offer. In fact, current supply can be different from current production. Difference, like the demand, supply is also with reference to the price at which quantity is supplied. Price quantity is not supply. Supply is a flow. It has time unit attached. Supply has to be per day, week or month. That is supply. What are the determinants of supply? Price of commodity, prices of factors of production, or we can say that cost of production, prices of other goods, the state of technology, and goals of the producer and objective of the producer. Production also influences production and supply decision. And another part is supply, law of supply. Producer aims to maximize profit. The difference between total revenue and total cost. Revenue means income. TR, total revenue. Revenue means income. Total revenue and total cost. So we can say that profit is equal to TR, total revenue minus TC. TR stands for total revenue minus TC. TC means total cost. Total cost includes fixed cost as well as variable cost. the cost of total cost of production, total cost. So we can say that the profit is equal to TR minus TC. And the higher is the price, higher will be supply. Lower the price, lower will be supply. So supply of a commodity is a function of its price, price of all other commodities, prices of factors of production, technology, objectives of the producer, and other factors remaining unchanged. And the supply schedule, suppose schedule shows quantities of commodity that a seller is willing to supply. Seller is willing to supply per unit of time at each price, assuming other factors remaining constant. Suppose data by chart or table showing price and quantity supply. That is, we can say that supply schedule. And the supply curve. Suppose supply curve is slopes upward, but demand curve slopes downwards from left to right, and the supply curve slopes a smooth curve drawn through the, suppose, upward sloping curve. So we can say that the supply curve slopes upwards, demand curve slopes downwards. Since so, we can say that changes in quantity supply, a decrease in supply, a increase in supply. When the quantity of a commodity supplied declines at the same price, it is referred, we can say that decrease in supply. It implies a leftward shift of the supply curve. So increase in supply. That means change in supply. We can say that two types: a decrease in supply, another is increase in supply. When the quantity of commodity supply increases at the same price, it's known as the increased supply. That means a rightward shift in supply curve. Then the elasticity of demand. Demand meaning and supply, then elasticity of demand. Elasticity of demand, that means percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. Delta x divided by delta y. So elasticity of demand, change in quantity due to change in price. Delta means change. And another aspect is the 5 types of elasticity of demand: perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic, more elastic, less elastic, and unitary elastic. Perfectly elastic, and perfectly inelastic, more elastic, less elastic, and unitary elastic. Suppose first case, perfect elasticity is infinite. Second is 0. Third is greater than 1, less than 1, then equal to 1. The 5 cases of elasticity of demand. And we can measure up the price elasticity of demand. Price, income, cross. There are 3 types of elasticity of demand: price elasticity of demand, cross elasticity of demand, and income elasticity of demand. Measurement of price elastic demand is the point method, total expenditure method. Point method, we can say that is also known as the percentage method. Main point, delta x divided by delta y. That is that only when the changes in price and quantity demanded are very small. And total expenditure, total outlay means expenditure. To measure price elasticity of demand, use when changes in price and demand not small. To distinguish between the 3 important situations. Suppose we can say that elasticity, more elastic, less elasticity, unitary elasticity. And the geometrical method, the lower segment of the demand curve divided by the upper segment of the demand curve. And the determinants of the price elasticity of demand, nature of the commodity, necessaries, comforts, luxuries. The three types. Commodities are divided in three categories. We can say that necessaries, comforts, and luxuries. Price elasticity of demand will be less for the necessaries. We know rise in price of salt will not able to force people to reduce their consumption. And luxuries are purchased by people with higher income. Their demand also does not change much with the change in price. Number of substitute goods. If the goods substitutes are easily available, price elasticity of demand will be high. Alternative, number of uses. The greater the number of possible uses, the price elasticity will be greater. Price level of the commodity. That are the determinants of price elasticity of demand. Then another important part is the demand and supply. Demand and supply determination of equilibrium. The demand curve stops downwards, supply curve stops upwards. E is the equilibrium point. E is the determination of equilibrium. So equilibrium price we have to define at the price at which quantity demanded and quantity supplied are equal. Quantity demand and quantity supplied are equal. DD is the demand curve, SS is the supply curve. DD demand curve intersects supply curve at point E. So we can say that OQ output and OP is the price. E is the equilibrium point. So equilibrium price is one at which quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. Quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. That is equilibrium price. And in case effects shift in demand and supply is changed, suppose supply remaining constant, if the demand changes, first demand curve will shift to the right, then the left, and the supply curve will shift to the right, then the supply curve will shift to the left. That is change in supply and changes in demand. So another is effects shift in demand and supply equilibrium. In the simultaneous shift, it will examine if both demand and supply curves shift simultaneously. The combined result would be determined as but an increase in demand, a shift rightward in demand curve raises P and increases Q, price and quantity. A decrease in demand, that shift left side in the demand curve lowers price and decreases quantity. An increase in supply, if we shift rightward in supply curve, price lowers price and increases quantity. When both the demand and supply curves shift, the effect on the price or the quantity can be determined. But about the relativity of shifts, the effect as under, if both demand and supply curves increase shift rightward, the quantity increases, but the price may rise, fall or remain the same. If the demand decreases, shift leftward, supply increases, shift rightward, the price falls. Quantity may increase or decrease or not change. That is the shift, simultaneous shift. If only shift in supply curve, if we change in supply curve, shift in supply curve, the demand curve remaining unchanged, will also affect both equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. An increase in supply would result a fall in the equilibrium price, an increase in the equilibrium quantity. A decrease in supply would result a rise in equilibrium price and in the fall in the equilibrium quantity. If you change simultaneously, we may also examine If both and demand curve shift simultaneously, then an increase in demand, that means a shift rightward to the demand curve, raises price and increases quantity. A decrease in demand, that shift leftward in demand curve, lowers price and decreases quantity. A increase in supply lowers price and increases quantity. So that is the simultaneous shift. Then the rationing and the allocation of scarce goods. How to allocate? That rationing implies fixation of price control. Price control means a ceiling. Suppose limit has been imposed on the prices of such commodities are covered under the price control measures. Fixation of ceiling on prices, that means the fees, free operations of the forces of demand and supply is not being permitted. Is not being permitted. The price control, we can say that ceiling below the equilibrium price, imposition of ceiling will have some following major implication. That first important point is shortages. The quantity actually sold and bought in the market will shrink. As a result, large chunk of consumers' demand will go on unsatisfied. Second, problem of allocation of limited supplies among large number of consumers. As already says, the shortage of commodity means all those consumers who demand the commodity at the ruling price cannot be satisfied. So large number of potential consumers of the commodity will be denied its use. What is here is question arise, how to allocate limited resources or limited supplies among large number of consumers. Important question. But it retail shops to arrange for the distribution of the scarce products. But in our country, we have witnessed such products such kerosene, edible oils, sugar, onions going scarce, but limited in supply in the market. And among all other scarce products may be distributed on the basis of fast come, fast served basis. Later, the situation when develops in the formation of long queues at a retail center so that persons lining up at the tail of queue have only little chance of getting the desired good. Now, there is a feeling against allocation on the basis of fast come, fast serve and seller's preference. So, effective ceiling will give rise to strong pressure for a central system of rationing, or we can say that administered system of rationing. And we have to check the black marketing is a direct consequence of price control. The situation in which control commodity is sold unlawfully below the desk at a price higher than lawfully enforced ceiling price. And suppose there are some support measures, price support measures. Price support means a floor has been fixed on the prices of such commodities are covered under the price support measures. And the producers of these commodities need not sell at prices lower than the floor price. That is the minimum price. Floor price means the minimum price fixed by the government. So you can say that MSP. Fixation of floor on the prices means the free operation of forces of demand and supply in being interfered with. Let us, we can say that the demand curve and the supply curve. The demand curve intersect the supply curve at suppose E is the equilibrium point. Suppose the price rises, we can say that excess supply. If the price lowers or decreases, excess demand. Excess supply and excess demand. The price support, or can say that imposition of floor prices above equilibrium price will have the following major implication. What are the surpluses? The quantity actually bought and supplied will shrink as a direct consequence of price support. And another part is the minimum wage legislation. Suppose minimum wage legislation is similar to the fixing of floor prices. Government at times are known to have interfered in the factor market. Legislation may be enacted whereby in the market employers may be prohibited from paying less than the minimum wage fixed by the government. And another is the sharing of tax burden. You can say that who bears the tax burden under the following situation: when the demand is perfectly elastic and supply is of normal shape. When the demand is perfectly inelastic, supply is of normal shape. When supply is perfectly elastic, demand is normal shape. We know that there are 5 cases of elasticity of demand: perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic, and more elastic, less elastic, and unitary elastic demand. In a perfectly elastic demand, elasticity of demand is infinite. And in case of perfectly inelastic demand, elasticity of demand is zero. In a more elastic, elasticity of demand is greater than 1. In less elastic, the elasticity of demand is less than 1. And the unitary elasticity of demand is equal to 1. That is, so 5 cases of elasticity demand already analyzed, already discussed: the perfectly elastic demand, perfectly inelastic demand, more elastic demand, less elastic demand, and unitary elastic demand. So let us sum up. Basic of demand and supply enable us to appreciate the relevance of economics daily day-to-day life. And the market price is determined at a point where the quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. And the characteristics of demand and supply may differ from one situation to another. But we can say that from one market to another market. And the market forces influence the prices and quantity over a period of time. We can say that the process of change in quantity, whereas adjustment process works through a change in price. Suppose the imposition of ceiling below the equilibrium price have the implication of shortage of supply, black marketing, hence the need for central administered system of rationing. Imposition of floor prices may cause surpluses of the commodity. Hence, we have to need for buffer stocks and selling of the product to the consumers at subsidized prices. That is the impact of minimum wage legislation, similar to the fixing of floor prices. On the first is discuss the introduction concept of scarcity, central problems, what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce, then the production possibility curve, the characteristics of PPC, downward sloping from left to right, concave to the origin, then the allocation of resources, solution to the central problems, how to allocate the resources very efficiently, and allocation of resources, then the microeconomics, so macroeconomics. Micro means small, macros mean large, and the stock and flows, stock concept and flow concept. Then the uh, demand and supply, demand meaning,
ଭାଇ ଟିକେ
nature of
ଅନଲାଇନ୍ ଅଛି।
demand. କହୁଛନ୍ତି କି? ହ୍ୟାଲୋ।
ସାର୍ ଆମେ ଜଷ୍ଟ ୱାଇଣ୍ଡ ଅପ୍ କରିବା କ୍ଲାସ୍।
ହଁ ହଁ ହଁ
ଆଉ ଟିକେ 5 ମିନିଟ୍ ଭିତରେ ସାରିବାକୁ ମୁଁ ଅନୁରୋଧ କରୁଛି ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ। We just
ଠିକ ଅଛି।
wind up the class.
ହଁ ମୁଁ ଜଷ୍ଟ ସମ ଅପ୍ କରିଦଉଛି ଲାଷ୍ଟ କୁ। କଣ କଣ ଆଲୋଚନା କଲି ସବୁ demand, objectives, nature of demand, determinants of demand, law of demand, determinants demand by the consumer, determinants of market demand, demand schedule are two types. So one is individual demand schedule, another is market demand schedule. Change in quantity demanded versus change in demand. Then the concept of supply, meaning of supply, law of supply, determinants of supply, supply schedule, supply curve. We know that the supply curve slopes upwards, demand curve slopes downwards. And exception to the law of supply, changes in quantity supply, then the idea of elasticity of demand, elastic demand three types: price, income, cross. Price elastic demand, income elastic demand, cross elastic demand. And elastic demand are five types: perfectly elastic, inelastic, more elastic, less elastic, and the unitary elastic. And the measurement of elasticity of demand, determinants of elasticity of demand. Then the equilibrium, demand and supply equilibrium. Demand curve slopes downwards and supply curve slopes upwards. The equilibrium point. And the shift in demand curve, shift in supply curve, simultaneous shift in supply curve. Then the rationing and allocation of scarce goods. Last part.
Thank you, sir. I extend my heartfelt thanks to our resource person, Professor Gyanendra Das, as well as to the learners. Uh, Now we are winding up the class, and we have completed the block 1, BECC 101. Tomorrow we will start block 1 102. Thank you, sir, for your kind help. And I also thank to all the learners as well as resource persons. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.